1. If your computer is having performance issues, try adding more fragments of silicon.
Unless that performance is related to Skype, then
Yeah.
We've been having issues with Skype today. We're pretty sure it's Skype itself that's been behind the malfeasance, but it seems to have let up enough for us to do this show. So, hooray for that. Mm-hmm. Anyways, welcome to another Fragments of Silicon European interview. This week we got, forgive me if I mispronounce your name, Mikael Forslind.
Yeah, that's correct.
Good. Of Zoink Games, and also Eden Pixels, I believe it's called.
Yeah, that's kind of like a side project of mine, but my normal day job is Zoink Games, and I'm the PR guy over at Zoink Games.
Right. We'll probably be talking about a bit of both in this interview, but
sure.
Though at the top, we like to get to know the people behind the games, the firms, the everything, and we like to start by finding out what got them interested into video games in the first place.
What got me interested in the video games?
Yes. What got you interested in this medium in the first place?
Yeah, that was ages ago. Well, I'm way old school, so I got my first computer like a Spectra Video, I think it was called, back in the early 80s or mid 80s, and then I got into NES, and I've been into video games ever since. I had pretty much all of the Nintendo consoles and the PlayStation consoles, and I've stuck with video games for many years, but I've actually only been working in the gaming industry for 3 to 4 years, something like that. And I've been at 2 companies, and now I'm at Zoink.
And what inspired you to get into the industry?
I actually used to work as a store manager for a video store, and we've had video stores here in Sweden. We still do, actually. They didn't die out. They still haven't died out, video stores here, but a few years ago they were starting to kind of die out, and you were noticing how you had less and less of the actual videos in there, and they started selling more candy and stuff like that. So I kind of realized I needed to change industry because I didn't want to work in the video store anymore. So I always been interested in video games, and I actually applied for a job over at it's a company called Bergsala. And it's a Swedish company, but they actually own the license for all the Nintendo products in all Nordic countries. So they do all the Nintendo stuff for Denmark, Sweden, Finland, and Norway. So I actually applied for a job there, and I almost got it. Like, I fell on like the finishing line, but I wasn't qualified enough. So that encouraged me to go back to school. So I studied actually business and sales for almost 2 years. And during that school period, I took an internship at a gaming company called Coffee Stain Studios. They're mostly known for the Goat Simulator games, but this was before they made Goat Simulator, actually. And that internship led me to an actual job over at the company called Image Inform, mostly known for the SteamWorld games. And Image Inform and Zoink work really close together. So about a year ago, I started working at Zoink Games.
So you've only been at Zoink for a
year?
Now?
Yeah, I've been at Zoink Games for pretty much more than a year. For a year, and Coffee Stain Studios I was for 6 months, I think.
Right, and so
yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I think we got cut off there for a bit.
Okay.
Anyway, getting back on track here. So, what are your official duties at Zoink Games?
I do, like, I'm not into development side of the game, so I do like everything else that's not related to development. I do like most of the publishing tasks, the PR tasks, and office management tasks. So I make sure the games come out on all the platforms like the PS, the PlayStation, the Xbox, and Steam. And I go to conventions and I do mostly publishing tasks and marketing tasks.
I'm like, it's one of the more unsung professions in this industry I found. Now, I'm like, we get a lot of dev people on the program, but some marketing people as well. And marketing is a big part of gaming. It's like it's been a topic of conversation on the program recently about how there's so many games and what you have to do to get your game out there and get noticed. But anyway, so what was the first project you oversaw? Was it Stick It to the Man?
At Zoink Games, the first game we made was Zombie Vikings. The first game we self-published. That was kind of like the thing I got hired for, to take care of the marketing and the self-publishing for Zombie Vikings, and that was in 2015, I think. And normally back in the day, Zoink used to work with different publishers. We still do, but back in the day we only worked with publishers. But Zombie Vikings was the first game we did ourselves that we self-published, which means that we take care of all the contact with the platform holders and all ratings and all the talking to the Sony and the Microsoft and Steam and all that. And it's a lot of work, actually, especially it's your first game that you're doing this on your own. So that took it took a long time to actually get the games out, but eventually it came out on PS4, Xbox One, and Steam. So, yeah.
Right. And how much of a learning experience was it doing the self-publishing thing?
It's a good question, actually. I think I would say I would probably pretty much do the same thing when the games we're working with now, but I think what we did learn was that it takes a lot of time to actually develop relations with the people that write about games and stream games and Twitch games, play games on Twitch. So it actually takes a lot of time to actually get to know them and meet them and get them interested in new games. When you're first starting out, you just send a couple of emails out and you try to do your best to get all the emails out there and talk to a lot of people as possible. But nowadays we kind of realize that although we always take time to talk to everyone that wants to talk to us and review our games, it's really good to form relationships with like the bigger sites as well, because they have a bigger reach. But we always try to take care of the little ones as well.
That's good to hear. That's certainly good to hear.
That's cool.
I mean, we're not exactly a big outfit ourselves, but it's always nice when people come onto our program to talk about their things. Anyway, were there things that you did back in the time of Zombie Vikings that you wouldn't do now?
I think since Zombie Vikings was the first game we self-published, we kind of noticed that it's different when you do the self-publishing, because normally when you work with deadlines, if you have a publisher, like if you have a deadline, let's say that you need to submit the game at this day, then the publisher know that they have a couple of weeks or how many months they ever need in order to promote the games. But when we did Zombie Vikings, we kind of submitted the game in the last second, so like a week before the game was due to launch, which was in September 2015. We kind of submitted the game, which left me and another person that works at Zoink who helped me with the marketing. We kind of only had like a few days to get everything together, like all the assets and all the review codes, and it was major hectic. Like I worked so many hours, for many weeks actually, just trying to get the review codes out there and trying to answer all the emails, because it happens so much things that goes on right after when you launch, like the week before and then a lot of weeks afterwards. So like for the coming games, we're gonna self-publish, which is Flipping Death. My requirement is gonna be that if I have to have the review codes a lot of weeks before we actually release the game, so I can get them out there in time and make sure I can coordinate all the marketing efforts well before time.
No doubt, no doubt. Now, experience is the best teacher, after all.
Yeah.
Before we head to Flipping Death, I do want to bring up Zombie Vikings in the present tense because I recall reading that the game is coming to the Nintendo Switch, correct?
Well, yes and no. We're kind of looking into it. We have Switch development kits, and we are like trying to get all 3 games that we're working on at the moment, which is Flipping Death, Zombie Vikings, and Fae out on Switch. But we haven't. Well, we kind of publicly announced that we're doing the Switch version, but as of now, it's not really certain. So I'm going to be vague about that. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Curious.
We are doing the Flipping Death game on Switch though. That's 100% confirmed.
Right.
It's kind of we're a small studio, so we're kind of like each port and each version of every game we do, we need to consider it very carefully because, I mean, we're not a super small studio. We're almost 25 people, but it takes a lot of time getting the game out there on different ports. So we need to consider each port very carefully. And right now we're just focusing on the Flipping Death on the Switch.
Okay, that's actually good to know.
Yeah.
But just to be clear, it's not been canceled or anything. It's just on the back burner while Flipping Death is being worked out.
Yeah, we're not really sure what we're going to do about it. It's not really canceled, but it's not really confirmed either. So we're kind of uncertain about it. We want to do it, but we're not sure we're able to.
Okay, fair enough. Granted, this is a thing we've encountered before, like with other studios. Every version of every game does require some allocation of resources, and I think this is this came up when we interviewed Frozen Byte like last month.
Cool.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing what they did, and focusing on new games rather than bringing old games to the new platform.
Yeah, because we have Stick It to the Man, which we did like 2013. We have Zombie Vikings, we have Fae, and we have Flipping Death. So at the moment we have these 4 games, which are all kind of new, and each of them we're considering different ports and different versions, and we're not really sure which and when and how we're going to release like Fae and Flipping Death. So it's a lot of games and a lot of ports. And that's why we're being kind of vague, because we're not really actually sure which one will come first and on what platform.
Okay, that is actually good to know. Where things stand with these with ports of these older games.
Yeah.
But so shifting to Flipping Death, this game was announced not too long ago. It was one of the games in that Nintendo Indie Showcase, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. I suppose the first question is, I'm not sure if you can confirm this or not, but is this game a Nintendo Switch exclusive, or is it coming to other platforms?
It is coming to other platforms. So far, we can only confirm PS4 and Switch, but we're aiming to do like a multi-platform release on like the big ones. So probably Xbox One and Steam as well, but only PS4 and Switch are confirmed at the moment.
Okay, good to know. And is this being developed in Unreal or Unity?
We've been using Unity for probably 6 or 7 years, so it's all Unity for the Zoink games.
Okay, and right, so for those who might not know what this game is, what is Flipping Death?
Well, it's a mix between a platformer and like a traditional adventure game. You play as this girl called Penny, and she actually dies in the beginning of the game. So you play as a dead person. And she takes on the job of death, like the actual death. He goes on vacation, and she takes his job for like for the duration of the game. And the main mechanic of the game is that she can possess people, so she can flip between two different sides, that's why the game is called Flipping Death. So she has one side that's the dead side, and the other side is the living side. And by flipping between these two sides, she can solve different puzzles. And by possessing the different people, she can kind of use them like, imagine a traditional point-and-click game where you collect different items, but instead of the actual items, you unlock and you possess different people. So the people on the living side work as puzzle pieces. So traditional adventure game, but also has a lot of mix with platforming and puzzle games. It's a unique game, but it's very much similar to the game we made a few years ago called Stick It to the Man.
Yeah, I thought I noticed that in the trailer reveal. And
Yeah.
speaking of which, we'll be queuing that up here soon, for, in case our watchers haven't seen the trailer yet.
Cool.
Anyway, but yeah, I thought it looked rather like Stick It to the Man. But it's
Yeah.
not. Are the two games connected in any way, or is that just like the art style?
Well, they're not connected in that sense, but they are being made by the same team, and it's also being written by Ryan North, who wrote Stick It to the Man. But we're not really giving away too much of the story. There are like things that are similar in both games, but they are two different games, but they share a lot of things like the art style, the sense of humor, and weird, zany characters. If you like Stick It to the Man, you're going to like Flipping Death as well.
Mm. Admittedly, I have yet to play Stick It to the Man. Just so many games, so little time kind of deal.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot of games out there. I can send you a key after this. Don't worry.
Sure. I mean, we'll review the game.
Cool.
Yeah, talk more about that after the program. But anyway, Petty Fan, do you have the trailer queued up?
I'm resizing it now. Give me a moment.
Okay. The wonders of modern technology.
Yeah. I wish OBS had a plugin to automatically resize this for me.
And just bear with us. This is kind of this is kind of live programming, so.
Yep. Okay, everything should be ready.
All right. Then hit it.
Alrighto.
For Penny Dowood, death had a strange flip side. Literally.
Welcome to the other side, where if you're here, you're most likely dead.
But for Penny, there was no rest in peace.
A job? But what do I have to do?
Oh, you know, the usual.
Well, I did once temp in a kindergarten.
From the creators of Stick It to the Man comes a new adventure with an innovative flip side.
Ugh, smells like wet socks in here.
Did the ice cream just talk to me?
Possess and control the living to help the ghosts with their problems.
Got any super glue?
Is that Dr. Laser?
Yeah, baby!
He wasn't even a good kisser.
Why am I doing this?
I always assumed dying would be the last thing I ever did, but well, here we are.
All right. So, how did this game get conceived of in the first place?
Well, it was actually thought of back in 2013 when we made Stick It to the Man, because Stick It to the Man and Flipping Death are both, the art style is that it's like drawn on cardboard paper and on wood, so it's like a 2D look. And when we made Stick It to the Man, we always joked around about that it would be really funny to actually hide stuff on the other side of the paper or the other side of the cardboard or wood. But we never ended up using it in Stick It to the Man. But an idea for a game was born. And right after we finished Stick It to the Man, we actually started working with Flipping Death. This was like 3 years ago. And we actually built a prototype of the game, which worked really well. But for whatever reasons, we decided to postpone that game, and we made Zombie Vikings instead. But a year ago, we decided to pick it up, and we used that prototype and rebuilt it from scratch. And what you see now is on the trailer is what we have. So it was actually conceived many years ago.
And has it undergone any like changes from that conceptual stage to its more active development?
I think the prototype is pretty much almost the same. Like probably the layout of the town or the levels have changed a lot, and a few of the characters, but pretty much the idea for the game from the prototype is what we have now. So not much have changed actually.
Right. And so, how are you integrating point-and-click adventure elements into platform?
Yeah, as you can see on the trailer, you have these two sides. The dark side is the dead side, and there you have more of a platforming elements where you collect ghost critters. And these ghost critters are what you use in order to possess the different people. So you need to collect a certain amount in order to possess the people. And you have your sight, which you can throw, and while you throw it or when it have landed, you can actually teleport to it. So you can use that to cleverly move around on the dead side, which feels really good and looks really cool, and it's a lot of fun to do. And on the living side, which is the actual town where she started the game in, there you have more of a traditional puzzle game where you possess these different people, and each person that you possess have what we call a quirk. So like there's a dentist early in the game, and he has a drill, and you can possess him, and you can use his hand kind of like almost against his will, and he can use that drill in order to break something. And all these people have different abilities, different quirks, and they're all used in different puzzles. So it's very much you need to use both sides in order to solve the different puzzles and progress.
Yeah, that definitely reminds me a lot of what Stick It to the Man was doing with the brainwave possession.
Yeah. Yeah, you can actually read the minds of the people you possess as well, but you mostly use it in order to get different hints on what you're supposed to do with the different quirks and what they're thinking about. What we're kind of going for is that the more time you spend with the characters, the more you get to know them. And there are a lot of characters in the game, but there aren't that many, so you'll spend a lot of time with them, and you'll get to love them and get to find out what they want and what their story is. So like maybe early in the game you unlock the ice cream guy, but you might not need him for a puzzle for maybe like 2 hours later. So but when you get to that part where you need like an ice cream, you'll be like, oh, I remember that ice cream guy. It was that one from earlier. So well, you always use the same characters like several times throughout the game.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. Now, this game has been highlighted quite a bit by Nintendo. Is that something they approached you with, or or did you go to them with this game?
I think it's actually a good question. I'm not sure what the answer is. I should really look into this. But we've been talking to Nintendo like all through last year with the fall and around the announcement for the Nintendo Switch. It was called NX back in the day. And like when they did the proper announcement of the Nintendo Switch, I think it was January 12th this year. Like then we already had a development kit. So like we saw the announcement and we didn't know much about the Switch because it was super secret. But our boss was like, we already have a kit. So we just went and got it. Yeah, he actually had it in the office, but it was hidden. So we were one of the first like European developers, not the first, but one of the first that actually had development kits. And I don't know if we approached Nintendo or they approached us, but I do know that we've been talking to them for several months about this because we had this new game and we saw that Nintendo had a new console and we wanted to get something out there.
Yeah, I've been hearing stories about the dev kit allocation and how hard it's been to get a dev kit for the Switch. It seems to be easing up a bit, at least in North America. Like, developer we know that really wanted their game on the Switch just got their dev kit and certification and all that, and just announced the Switch port yesterday.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I don't know how the situation is in Europe, because presumably NOE handles that versus NOA. But yeah, the fact that you guys got a Switch does indicate that Nintendo was interested in what you were doing.
Yeah.
Just from what I've heard from other developers, like, they're being a bit more, the word selective with their indie allocation this time around. Apparently, there were some incidents on the Wii U eShop that have precipitated this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I heard is that they're, like, the last couple of months, they've been so busy, so I think they're mostly aiming for, like, well-established companies. And we did Stick It to the Man on Wii U a couple of years ago, so we've done Nintendo games before, so we already had a relationship with them. So I think they're mostly focusing on established developers at the moment. But like, from what I heard, if you're an indie developer and you're not established, you should contact them anyway, and hopefully if you have a good enough game, you'll get them out there. So
yeah, well, yeah, they have a portal for that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know what the situation is from Nintendo's perspective, but like I said, I have talked to various devs about getting us the Switch allocation situation. So it anyway, getting to the Switch itself, was there any difficulty in getting the actual game running on the platform versus the PlayStation 4 version?
No, actually, development has gone really smooth. Like, when we did Zombie Vikings, that was a 4-player co-op game with online mode, and that was quite big of a game for us, actually. But Flipping Death is a single-player game with no online mode, so getting the game to run on Switch was really simple, actually. It only took a few days to get the game running, and optimization has gone really well as well. So now we're just developing the game and building for PlayStation 4 or for Switch whenever we need to, and it runs really well on both consoles.
That's once again good to hear, because, well, like, remembering the Wii U, it had its issues with Unity, although,
yeah,
to be fair, also the PlayStation 4 has also had its issues with Unity.
Yeah.
Now, are the PlayStation 4 and Switch versions being developed simultaneously, or does one have preference over the other?
No, we're just working on the game as of now, and yeah, we're not really focusing on any version because we're doing a multi-platform game, and as what we're planning right now is that the different versions won't have any like exclusive content, nor the game is going to be pretty similar on all versions. What we do adding to the Nintendo Switch is the HD Rumble thing, but we're only looking into that, so it's nothing really decided yet. So we're just developing the game, and yeah, whenever we need to build for the PS4, we build for the PS4, and whenever we need to build for the Switch, we do it for the Switch. So it works really well.
So HD Rumble hasn't been implemented yet?
No, we're just like messing around and see what we can implement. We have confirmed that we're going to do something, but we haven't decided yet. But it's fun. I mean, it's a cool feature, and we're going to think of something cool to use it for.
Well, how far along is the game at this point?
Well, more than mid-development. We're like all the main mechanics are there, like basic stories there, and what we're doing now is we're just adding more characters and like making the town bigger. The whole game actually takes place in the same town, but as you progress, the town gets bigger and bigger, and sometimes you revisit the area. So we're just like adding more content and trying to make the town even bigger.
You probably don't have a release date pinned down, but are you targeting this year or next year?
It's probably going to be early next year, actually.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds about right, given where you are.
Yeah.
Right. So before we move forward, I want to see if my colleagues here have any additional questions about Flipping Death. Guys?
We lost them.
I guess not. Maybe they got put on.
Sorry, I don't have too many questions left. I had my mic muted because I was coughing a little.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, if you don't have questions, you don't have questions. Like,
it does certainly look interesting.
Yeah. Right, but and indeed, that's not the only game that you're working on. You've also got it's pronounced Fae, correct?
You can actually pronounce it both Fae, or you could say Fea, because Fea is it's actually a Swedish word meaning fairy, but I normally call it Fae. That makes more sense. So yeah, that's the second game we're working on.
Right, and I believe we have the E3 2016 trailer to play.
Yeah.
Give me one
this-
second.
Yeah, this is especially important because people might have forgotten that this game exists.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
Uh,
all right, but you know,
Give me 1 second to switch over audio, and then I can play it.
all right. Just let us know when you're ready.
All right.
Oh,
And I am ready now.
all right. Well, go for it. That was some dubstep.
yeah.
Anyway, so where to start with this? I suppose, given the name Fae, I'm guessing that there's a lot of folklore being injected into this title.
Yeah, it's like you play as a small cub, like of unknown origins. You can't really tell what kind of species you play as. It's a game that it has no text at all, and it takes place in this like large Nordic dark forest. But it like the main game is like it is a 3D platformer, so you have all the like normal mechanics of a 3D platformer. You can jump, you can climb, you can glide through the air, you can collect stuff and run around and throw stuff. But it's very much a game for like the player himself or herself to fully explore and almost find out himself what the story is, because it's not using any text at all, and it's almost doesn't have any cutscenes. We're kind of like inspired by games like Journey, which leaves a lot of for the player to discover himself. But it's more of a game in that sense, where you can actually run around in this 3D world and jump and explore. It's a mix between a Metroidvania game and like a artsy journey-esque game.
That definitely comes across in the aesthetics and the everything of the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, but so why a 3D platformer?
That's a good question, actually. I think this game has also been around for ages at Zoink. It actually started as a prototype even before Flippin' Death, actually. But as of now, we have two creative directors, and they have they're making this game together. But one wants to make this more of a platforming, like a 3D platforming game, and one wants to make this more artsy experience, and they're both working together to create a game that has both. So I know for one of the creative directors, which is called Hugo, he's very much inspired by old Metro games and like these old school 3D platforming game that came out like in the Nintendo 64 era, and now again with the Yooka-Laylee and games like that. But Andreas, who's the other art director, he's more inspired by these journey type games, and it works really well to put them both together. Actually, it's really fun to run around and just wreaking havoc in the forest, but it's also a very artistic view on the whole experience, where you don't get the story told to you. You're almost you can almost imagine yourself what happens. So it leaves a lot for the player to discover himself.
Right. I don't think... I'm trying to think of a 3D platformer that has done something like this. I mean, I know there's like a number of 2D platformers that have, take the artistic bent, but not so much in the 3D space. Although that might just be because there aren't a lot of people who do 3D platformers.
No, I agree. It's kind of hard to... Both Flippin' Death and VR kind of games are so different and unique games, if I could say it myself. Like, it's hard to actually compare them to other games. But if I could compare Fear to anything, I would say if you had Ori and the Blind Forest, but mixing with Super Mario 64.
I was going to say the aesthetic reminded me of Ori and the Blind Forest, kind of.
Yeah. And it plays very much like Super Mario 64. You just run around in this open world, and it's very easy to control. And I'm not sure if this comes across in the trailer, but it's very easy to control the character. It's very the controls are very responsive, and it's very fun to actually move around. And this game takes place, it is a full open world. It's not an open world in that sense that you can it's not an open world in the sense of that Skyrim is an open world, but it is an open world where you don't have any loading times that you can notice, and you can move around in this forest and come back to different areas when you have locked new different abilities. So it's very much a Metroidvania sense kind of game.
Right. I am familiar with the structure of old school platformers, but that doesn't sound quite what you're going for here. Like that's more a hub world, and you go into various areas versus having the whole world open.
Yeah, you're led as the player, so when you start the game, you don't have that much. You don't have many places to go. You can just follow the intended path, but it feels more open. But we kind of lead the player, so they progress naturally through the game, and at the end they have more to unlock and the whole forest to explore.
Right, and is this game being done in Unity as well, or is it using a custom engine?
No, it's Unity as well. And Flipping Death is self-published. We're doing everything ourselves, but this game is actually published by EA, which is really cool for a small developer as us.
Right, and do you know how how Zoink Games got hooked up with EA on this project?
I know, very early, mid 2016. I know Klaus, which is the CEO of Zoink. I know he wanted to bring this game to a publisher because it's a really it's a game that we want a lot of people to play. So we wanted to go to a really big publisher, and we were actually fortunate enough to get a meeting with EA. I think it was at GDC first, like in 2016. And then, like, only a few weeks after, we were lucky enough to meet EA in Stockholm, which is the capital of Sweden, which is only a few hours away from us. And we went there. Well, Klaus went there, and he pitched the game, and it was almost like a done deal from the start, because EA did Unravel 2015, and they wanted to support more indie games, like trying to find unique indie games. So that's why they started something called EA Originals, which is like their indie label. And Fes were the first game that is under that label.
Yeah, I remember this game showing up at the EA E3 conference last year.
Yeah.
And getting a pretty prominent position. Like, so it's good to hear that EA is a really big supporter of the game.
Yeah, I mean, they let us control everything. So, I mean, they provide feedback if we need it, but we're free to do the game we want to do. And as long as we just follow the milestones and keep up production, everything is good. And we actually keep all the rights to the game as well, which is kind of unusual for a large publisher to allow the game creator to keep. So we keep all the rights to the game when it comes out, which is really cool for us. So we're super happy to work with EA, and it's the reason we haven't talked so much about it is because it's still in production, but we're gonna amp up the marketing and going to talk about the game more this fall. But we're still a little secretive about the game. It also has, I mean, it's a game that we don't want to show too much about, because it is very much a game that's kind of easy to spoil too much about. So we don't want to like show everything. We want the player to discover him or herself.
I get that. Once again, going back to like Ori and the Blind Forest comes to mind.
Yeah.
In that regard as well. Now, this game is coming to the PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4, correct?
Well, it says so here on the internet actually, but we haven't confirmed any platforms. But I would guess that's the case. But they haven't publicly announced any platform yet.
That's interesting, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I just go by the information I can find. So.
Yeah, because if I click Fe on the Wikipedia link, it actually says it says PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Microsoft Windows. But I mean, that's just what people put on the internet. We haven't publicly announced anything yet.
So it's platforms to be determined.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Well, I suppose the question I'm getting at is, and mind you, this isn't like a confirmation or anything. Could this game be workable on the Nintendo Switch, or is it a little too beyond its capabilities?
I'm not sure actually. I think I mentioned earlier today, like we want to get all the games we have like out on this Nintendo Switch, and this is one of them. But as of now, we can't confirm anything. Can't confirm anything. Sorry.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Sorry to be that guy that just denies everything. Sorry.
It's happened on the program before. It's like,
yeah.
Like I said, I'm actually more wondering if this game can actually, run on a Nintendo Switch more than anything else, because it looks very, very graphically intensive.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually how well it runs. So.
Okay, fair enough. And I guess we'll be hearing more about Faye at E3 or some future point.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about this the coming months. It's going to be really fun to talk more about the game, because what you're seeing here now in the trailer, that's almost a year old material. So the game looks so much better now. It's going to be really cool to get the game out there.
Right. And so the final game we want to cover is not actually anything from Zoink. It's your own personal project.
Yeah.
Right, because by day you work at Zoink Games, by night you work at a personal label, I suppose, called Eden Pixels.
Yeah, Elden Pixels. Yeah.
Elden Pixels, thank you. And for those who don't know, they're the creators of the game Alwa's Awakening.
That's correct.
Yeah. That's actually a game we reviewed not too long ago.
I was about to say everything's getting meta and circular now.
Yeah, I'm like, as far as footage for that game, we showed plenty of, we showed that in our review of the game. Like, I'm trying to remember how, like, that came out, what, like 2 months ago?
Yeah, early February.
About then. And, well, for those who missed our review or don't know, Alwa's Awakening is an 8-bit style Metroidvania title.
Yeah, that's correct.
And so, as for starter, is what made you want to make a retro Metroidvania game?
Well, I think the idea for the game came back in 2014. Like, I was just had a couple of months in the gaming industry, and I just felt that I needed to learn more about the gaming industry, and I wanted to like do something on my own, like to actually understand development process more. Since I only work with the publishing and the marketing, I wanted to have a better understanding of the whole process. So I got this idea and I wrote a document and I found a couple of friends and we made this game. And it took almost 2 years, but we didn't work all the time. It was like we worked on weekends and on nights, and it was a really cool learning process. And I learned a lot, which really helps me on my day job as well.
Well, so what parts of the game did you did you do the programming? Did you do the art? Multiple things?
I did like all the game design and the level design, and I wrote the story and the dialogue and like did all the levels and stuff like that. But we had a programmer, an artist, and a guy who made the music. But I was like the game designer, level designer, and did all that stuff. Yeah.
And
so,
go
ahead.
Thought someone else had a question there. What was the most arduous part of making Alwa's Awakening?
So what's that word, arduous?
Arduous, difficult.
Oh, the most difficult part? That's a good question. I would say like the part I didn't like the part I realized I wasn't good at and I didn't have any enjoyment doing, was actually writing all the dialogue. I mean, I can speak and write English, but as you probably can hear, it's not my first language. So writing like all the dialogue and making sure everything was grammatically correct, and that was kind of like something I didn't enjoy at all. And the game came out, and I mean, people like it. It's been reviewed well, but I've been getting a few comments about the grammar and stuff like that. It's not. I don't know if you noticed anything, but a lot of people are saying like it could be better. And that was something I realized mid-development. I didn't really enjoy writing. Like, I've never written anything in my entire life, so I didn't like that part. If I ever do another game, I'm going to get someone else to write the story.
Fair enough, I suppose. I mean, I'll be honest. At first, I thought the grammar was another part of the throwback, because
yeah, it is that in some ways, because the dialogue is intended to be like kind of cryptic and not so informative. They're almost like, because if you play those really old NES games, like the real old ones, like the ones came out like mid 80s, the dialogue in those are normally like localized, translated from Japanese. That's why they sound so weird. So that was kind of like the style I was going for, but it was kind of hard to write dialogue anyway.
Right. Well, I was thinking like what comes to mind is like Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest.
Yeah. That was a game that was I was heavily inspired by, because I like when you're not like, the idea with the game was to be kind of cryptic and you're just not really supposed to get that much information on what you're supposed to do. I like that part. So yeah.
I got to admit, I was I enjoyed it a lot less when like I couldn't figure out how to move forward because nobody could actually tell me how to move forward.
Yeah.
I was, believe me, I was glad I had Nintendo Power back in the day for Castlevania 2. Like, because
Yeah.
you know, that game is not just a bad translation. It's like it deliberately gives you misinformation.
Yeah, yeah, I remember. I didn't actually finish that game when I was a kid. I don't think I finished it ever, actually. I should go back and finish it.
I finished the game, but that was with codes. Now,
Yeah.
I used the cheat codes back in the day.
Yeah.
Anyway, so right. So I suppose the next question is, what was the most valuable lesson you learned on this project, especially in regards to your day job?
Well, I've learned it's a good question because like the last couple of years I've been working so much, like both on my normal job and on my spare time. Because before I started with Alva's Awakening, I actually ran a retro game convention here in Sweden, and we had close to 5,000 visitors, and that was almost like another day job. I almost had 2 jobs. So and I did that for almost 3 years, and then I was supposed to take a break and just, be free when I have my spare time, but instead I started making a game. So the last 5 years or so, I kind of been working nonstop, like almost day and night and all weekends for almost 5 years. So what I did learn when I made Alva's Awakening that I don't want to work like 7 days a week, 5 years in a row. So now when the game is out, I'm actually going to just focus on my day job and then like enjoy my spare time and, do stuff like exercise and actually play video games.
So basically have free time.
Yes, exactly, free time. And yeah, do fun stuff and watch videos and, exercise and, do whatever you do when you have free time. I haven't had a free weekend in 5 years, it feels like.
It's like I can relate. Granted,
Yeah.
I don't do the 7-day thing, but like working on this project is a lot of time, doing various things, and it can eat into other things.
Yeah, but that's kind of the curse also when you're into something, like you're doing this because you're a fan of doing this stuff, and then you should continue doing it. But it's also, as you mentioned, it takes a lot of time, but it's also fun.
Right. And, well, are you proud of the game you made in Alva's Awakening?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it came out really well. It came out almost exactly as I wanted it to come out, like when we started 2 years ago. So yeah, I'm super pleased about it. And it's really fun to make your own thing. Like, this is a game I can have for the rest of my life. So yeah, I'm really proud.
That's good to hear. I suppose the last question in regards to Alva's Awakening is it done in terms of like will we ever see this on like consoles?
Most likely not, due to the fact that I don't want to work too much. So like if someone were to contact us and say, yeah, we can port it for you for like, yeah, for free or something like that, we could probably do it. But I'm kind of like, I don't want to work another year on the game. So at this moment, no, you're not going to see it on any other platform.
That definitely makes
maybe
sense.
Someday down the road, maybe in 5 years. Yeah, maybe in 5 years or 10 years, I don't know. Since it's a retro game, it doesn't get old in that sense. So maybe we'll port it in 3 years or 5 years, I don't know. But not now.
I suppose that in real terms, that depends on if anyone gets into contact with you, because there are organizations out there that will port games to other systems.
Yeah, I know.
I suppose that the onus is on them. Whatever.
Yeah,
Right.
but yeah.
Right. So one last check with my colleagues here to see if they have any questions of their own on any of the things we featured here.
I'm good.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, you might have seen our review of Alva's Awakening already. I thought it was a really good,
Thank you.
really good execution of being a game that practically could have been on the NES.
Yeah, it's like it really nailed
Thank
down
you.
some NES mechanics. Although that does up the frustration factor.
Yeah, that's kind of like what's been giving it. Like when people review it, a lot of people really like the fact that it's really true to the old school style, both when it comes to level design and game design and stuff like that. But a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but some people that review the game dislikes the fact that it's so true to the old school design and really compare it to modern takes on retro games like Axiom Verge and Shovel Knight, which takes the retro formula but adds like a modern twist to it, and those games are widely popular. So that's like when you read the reviews for Alva's Awakening, sometimes people really love the old school design and some people really dislike the old school design, but we wanted to make a game that was really true to the old school design, so we did the game we wanted to do. And if people not a fan of it, I mean, can't please them all.
Well, there's definitely something to be said about doing that, because honestly, I find with a lot of retro games, it's all aesthetic and nothing else. Like,
Yeah.
it looks 8-bit because that's an art style now. It's not because they're trying to really invoke the era of the NES or any particular console. There is a difference between, just using it for your art and actually invoking an NES game. And
Yeah.
it's not just in the graphics, it's in the play control, it's in the sound, it's in the everything.
Yeah, like one of the things we had a few people comment about was that the fact that we don't use all the buttons. I mean, for a PlayStation 4 for a PlayStation 4 controller, you have like 16 buttons or so. And people were like, why don't you use all the buttons? And that was something we actually didn't even think about, because for like the first year of development, we only had like normal NES controllers. So we didn't even consider the fact that people would play the game with a modern controller. We just developed for NES controller, and it was almost like a year into development when we first started support for PS4 controllers and Xbox One controllers. But still, you can still play it with an NES controller. And we wanted to make this old school game, and I think we succeeded.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah. Well, at any rate, we are out of time.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, once again, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be with us for us, like this morning, almost afternoon for you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem. Certainly looking forward to Flipping Death and Faye. And
Awesome.
Also looking forward to reviewing Stick It to the Man. No.
Yeah, I'll send you a couple of codes afterwards.
Okay. Usually we request 4 codes because there's 4 of us here. Like,
Yeah.
but whatever can be spared is appreciated. Right.
Cool.
So that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments to Silicon. Be sure to join us tomorrow, 9 o'clock Eastern, our usual time. We will be welcoming back to the program Tom Crago of Tantalus Media. Really looking forward to having him back on the program. They've been working on some big time projects, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about them.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, it's like the in development stuff is always precarious.
Yes, I remember we've run into that before.
Yeah. I'm like, I do hope at least we get the details on how they got to Twilight Princess.
Since that's been out for quite a while.
Yeah, that's been out for over a year, I think. Anyway, be sure to tune in for that, and until such time, I wish you good gaming.